And Honorable Minister, thank you very much. It's been quite a while since we came here, but certainly better late than never. And I'm happy certainly to share the Ghana Gas story, a story that I believe most of you know, and I'll provide some details as to what we've done, as the Minister said, over the last 8 years. Someone go to the next slide for me. Okay, so it's Ghana Gas really was incorporated in 2011, July 2011, 29th, and we're supposed to gather, process, and transport gas and also market gas, and certainly from the supply source to the market. And the vision there really was to provide reliable, and the emphasis there is on reliability, delivery of gas, and then supply of gas derivatives. I make the distinction here between delivery of gas and supply of gas. Delivery speaks to the infrastructure that is used to link the supply source certainly to the market, whilst supply speaks to just the commodity source. And Ghana Gas really is responsible mostly for the delivery system. And then our mission follows, helping Ghana's industrialization by gathering, processing, and of course delivery of natural gas in a safe, cost-effective, and environmentally responsive manner.
Go there with a purpose to go and seek the face of God. So any child of God
manner
who wants to have an encounter,
through three topics. It's going to be business development, community development, and last but not the least, human resource development or human capacity development. And the outline is simply this: the three development stories: business development, where we talk about infrastructure, as well as the uses of gas, the many uses of gas. Gas for power, for instance, gas for industrial heating mostly, production of natural gas liquids, the NGLs, as well as, talking about things we use in our homes like LPGs, and even condensates, which blends with other additives to form the premix that are used along the coastal belt. So we'll be talking through those. Community development speaks to our CSR projects, as you might have guessed. And the last but not the least is building local intellectual capacity, which we call indigenization. The three pillars have been given here as well, with more elaboration. So the business development, we do this three phases: the operations part, maintenance, and certainly expansion. So operations we do on a daily basis in a 24-hour cycle, and then of course maintenance on as needed, and expansion occasionally as well. Local intellectual capacity, very important, and building local intellectual capacity for the sustainability of the industry. And then certainly indigenization is what we call it, and I'll talk about that later on during the presentation as well. I like this slide because what comes to mind when we mention gas? Where does it start? Where does it end? And what does it mean, really? So this one captures the gas value chain. The gas value chain basically giving you an indication of where the gas is coming from in terms of the exploration and the production efforts, which we call the upstream. And then if you go down, you see the downstream as well, which is gas distribution and utilization, what the gas is used for. But between the gas supply and the gas utilization, there is the midstream. The midstream is where we have the infrastructure that links those two sets of gates. And that is really where Ghana Gas sits mostly, the midstream. Okay, and we try to do our work safely, cost effectively, and certainly compliant with the local and international codes and standards. This is the gas value chain. Just memorize it. I'm going to go to the next one. Now, this is the power value chain. So we've moved from the gas value chain now to the power value chain. Now, power value chain, you see that the first gate really is the gas supply or the fuel supply. So the gas value chain, it's only a gate within the entire power value chain. And of course, the power value chain goes through generation when you supply the gas for thermal generation. But there are other sources of generation as well, as you well know. Hydro, now we're thinking about, solar as well. And then, as has been mentioned, also nuclear, and certainly wind will be other renewable sources of energy as well. So the generation, and then we go to the transmission. After generating the power, you have to transmit it and then distribute it. This is your power value chain, and gas is the first gate for thermal generation in the power value chain. Let's go. So what is our story? Business development, community development, and capacity development. Let's go on. Let's look at business development. And here I want to talk about infrastructure, gas for power generation, so thermal generation, gas for industrial heating, and production of NGLs, natural gas liquids, mostly LPGs and condensates. Those are valuable commodities that are used locally. Let's go on. If this is not very clear, just hang on with me. But this is a very important slide. It just tells you how gas is distributed in the country. And first, the green tells you where the gas sources are coming from. You see at the bottom left corner, that is the Jubilee and 10 fields with those green. About 100 million standard cubic feet of gas is coming from those fields. Those gases are actually raw. They are raw because they contain some heavy hydrocarbons. Those have to be removed. That's why we do the processing. So it's only the Jubilee and 10 gas that goes through processing. And you see the Atuabo gas processing plant there. Once it is processed, that lean gas that has been stripped of its liquids, we call lean gas, just like you call lean meat that has got, fat on it. Once you actually extract the oil from it, we call it lean meat. And then that lean gas is commingled with a gas which is already dry, coming from the Sankofa fields. Then it goes eastward towards Takoradi for power generation, and some also goes to Tema. But we also have a lateral that takes part of the gas, and you see that there's a lateral that is taking some of the gas through Pristia, and then currently also Kumasi. Kumasi is certainly having generation as well. Okay, so the green tells you the sources of gas, whilst the blue points tells you where the gas is consumed. Okay, and then of course the infrastructure there tells you how the gas is handled, the processing and the transportation. The processing is on the left side, which is the gas processing, and the transmission facilities are those in black. The dotted ones are those that are yet to be installed. But this really, it captures the distribution network or system for Ghana's gas, both domestic, and then you see red one also coming from Nigeria, about 60 million standard cubic feet of gas also coming from Nigeria. This is a picture of the Ghana's gas distribution. Let's go on. What has happened so far? Okay, so I think Ghana Gas, as the minister said, had its infrastructure actually installed by November 2024. November 2024, we had the sighting of the first gas into Ghana, first domestic gas coming into Ghana. And then we took about 5 months to do commissioning of the infrastructure. So the first commercial activity in Ghana actually started in May of 2015. And that is where we're actually selling gas to the power producers. Before then, we were actually relying on just, some small amount of gas coming from Nigeria, and then mostly also liquid fuel, mostly light crude oil, and to some extent, some diesel. That infrastructure, so installed, had only a capacity of about 135 units of gas. In other words, at that point, when the infrastructure, the pipeline between Atuabo and Takoradi was laid, it could only handle 135 units of gas to Takoradi. With the installation of the Anoche compressor, that capacity was boosted to 405, almost 3 times. So this was a significant infrastructure that was actually added, I believe, in 2020 to enhance the capacity of the distribution or transmission system, gas transmission system. Very critical infrastructure, tripling the capacity of the gas distribution system. Then you've heard about the car power ship pipeline as well. Car power ship was moved from Tema close to the Takoradi enclave. 450 megawatts of it. It was relying on HFO, which is heavy fuel oil. But with this proximity to the gas infrastructure, we are now able to use gas through the secondary regulating and metering facility. 450 megawatts is close about 20% of the total thermal capacity in the country. Also very significant infrastructure that started operating in 2019. This is a good picture. I like this one because it tells you really what Ghana Gas does, even if you've not been there, but I will encourage you to visit our plant. So for the processing of the Jubilee and 10 gas, you see, when you take about 100 units of gas, about 94% of it goes for power generation and small non-power applications as well. 6% of it is used for liquids generation. And liquids, we call it natural gas liquids, and these are the LPGs and the condensates and the pentanes. LPGs, you know what it's used for domestic heating. And the condensate also, together with RON 95, is used to produce premix fuel for outboard motors for our coastal folks. Also a very significant product as well. And Ghana Gas, actually, in terms of the LPG, we currently provide about 50% of the LPG coming into the country. The rest certainly is imported. But for the gas, we handle about 85% of the gas that is used for thermal generation. So you see that we are a pretty important outfit when it comes to power generation, and even for non-power applications as well. But we do operations, maintenance, and certainly expansion on as needed basis. Okay. Now, what is the economic impact of our operation? Very clear. Enhance energy diversity, or we increase our power portfolio. And so instead of just relying on hydro, we now certainly do have gas, and gas has really replaced liquid fuel, and that is quite significant. Now, cost savings for the fuel substitution. So substituting gas for liquid fuel has significant implications, cost implications. If you take the Tema enclave, for instance, if you're generating about 100 megawatts of power, if you use liquid fuel, your bill will be close to about $70 million a month. When you use gas, it's about $33 million. So it's less than even half when you use gas instead of liquid fuel. But it doesn't end there. When you use gas, because of its low calorific density as well, you don't have a high atmospheric emission of CO2. Now, globally, we are all transitioning into renewables. We are all trying to minimize the amount of CO2 that we emit into the atmosphere because of the greenhouse impact it has. When you use gas instead of oil, you cut that down by almost half. So it's not just the cost savings, but also the atmospheric responsiveness when you use gas instead of liquid fuel. Job creation, significant. And also it helps, certainly, as I mentioned, with the industrialization effort that we have. We've listed some of the clients that we have for non-power application of gas. Let's go on. So that's the first gate. Summarize it. Power generation, LPG production, condensate for premix. That is significant. And then we've got the infrastructure that enables all this, to be able to transport the gas from the source to the market, whether it's processing or transportation infrastructure. That's what Ghana Gas does. But we don't just do that. There's also community development, what we call corporate social responsibility. Certainly we want to be good corporate citizens as well. And we do mostly the health facilities, educational facilities as well. We also help with water and sanitation. We've got sports and skills training, as well as livelihood, empowerment and progress as well. If you look at what we've done, we don't just concentrate on where our facilities are, which will be the Western region. Ghana Gas's CSR projects covers all 16 regions. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier, it's a way of giving back to the communities. The projects cover health, as I mentioned, education, water and sanitation, roads, and all those. To date, 2024, we have completed over 400 projects. It's only about 404 projects. And over 80 projects, about 88 projects are still ongoing. Quite significant, to the tune of close about $500 million cedis in terms of. So we take that seriously, our corporate social responsibility. That's number two. The last pole that we want to look at is the human resource development, or what we call human capacity development. For those of you who know Ghana Gas story, Ghana Gas infrastructure, certainly with the help of the Chinese, was installed in 2014, as I mentioned. And then it was being operated by the Chinese, all of them. I think that the biggest issue I had was most of the operating manuals were in Chinese. So it was very difficult for our young engineers, young men and women, engineers and technicians, to actually follow along. So we took that bold step, said, no, we want to take our own young engineers, men and women, and train them to operate our infrastructure, to man the control rooms, to go to the processing floors, to be at the storage facilities and handle all those. The utilities, every one of them should be a local, should be a Ghanaian. So that's what we did in April of 2017. 7 years and counting. And they have not, and certainly cost savings are there. We were saving about $3 million every month, because we were paying the Chinese quite a bit of money. With the Chinese gone, you know, that burden we can actually shelve, because we were paying our people anyways. So it was $250 million US saved to date. Okay, and certainly also create about 1,000 permanent and contractual and contract employment. But I think for me, what it's even more significant is the fact that we're able to actually increase the intellectual capacity in an industry as sophisticated as the gas industry. If you go around the world, people who work in the gas industry are quite knowledgeable. And because handling gas is certainly more difficult than handling oil. Oil is more quiescent, just lies there till you bring an ignition source to it. Gas actually is more volatile. So those who work in the gas industry, and I say this to the Ghana Gas employees who are listening here and also at the site, that's kudos to you for handling this, certainly with no lost time to injury. Kudos to you and congratulations. So this is what indigenization is about. You go to the site and you see just all Ghanaians handling all the sophisticated facilities. And that gives me a lot of pleasure. Okay. So I want to say that using indigenous Ghanaian engineers and technicians who took over from the Chinese in 2017 has been a very significant milestone in the operating life of Ghana Gas, and certainly I would say Ghana. To put it in context, look at our brothers in Trinidad. It took them 60 years, 60, to fully indigenize. Took our brothers next door in the east side, Nigeria, 50 years to actually have Nigerians just operating their infrastructure. But for Ghana Gas and for our gas infrastructure, it took less than 3 years. It's not juju. I think I will say this to the glory of the Ghana Gas staff. And I mentioned.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.